Good morning. Good morning, all. My name is Kabiru Mohammed Aliyu. I'll be your host for today. Thank you for joining this webinar. We appreciate your time. In Nigeria, in some parts of Nigeria, it's raining. In some part of the world, it's in the evening, and in some part of the world, they are still sleeping. But if wherever you have joined from, we really appreciate your time, and we appreciate you coming on this call today. And we sincerely wish that you are staying safe during these times. The Learning Space, in partnership with Avaya and Virtual Formatics, present this webinar, and it is very well packed in terms of what we're going to be discussing. Today, we'll be talking about improving customer experience with artificial intelligence and machine learning. You would agree with me that this is a very important topic at this time, especially on how customer experience could be revolutionized and transformed. What is the current trend of customer experience? What will customer be demanding, in advance? What would they want? What would they like? How would they buy? There's a lot of questions, that we can ask around this question, around this topic today. And we really thank you again for joining this webinar. I'll be making some few introductions. We have a very experienced panelists on the call today, and we'll be having various discussion on how to address this particular topic. So we have Dr. Ram Kashi. He is the co-founder of Copit Incorporation, and which is an AI startup company that provides tools for delivering smart and automation. This is very, very important. He was previously the director at Avaya Labs in web communication. He has a doctorate degree in computational neuroscience. He has numerous publications, surpassing 40, including about 30 patents. So this is somebody that is very experienced, and we are blessed to have him on the webinar today. He will be our keynote presenter. Introducing Mr. Sentil. Mr. Sentil is the pre-sales manager for Africa, Avaya. Very, very experienced in pre-sales, in making sure he aligns customer requirement to what Avaya offers. Mr. Sentil is the manager that oversees all pre-sales activities in the region, including Avaya Engagement Solution. Very, very, very experienced individual. We have Peace Inform, the network executive for Virtual Formatics. She will be bringing her insight on some small and medium businesses in terms of how the solution can be at par with them. Then we have a Blessing Olatuga, who is the productivity solution executive for Virtual Formatics, and as well, we'll be looking at practical scenarios of how the Avaya customer experience solutions can be of value to businesses. So as you can see, sit back and let's go through this important journey. At this juncture, I would slowly begin to hand over to Dr. Ram in terms of the presentation. So we advise that you observe the rules, the Little House rules. Please kindly stay on mute. If you have any questions to ask, kindly use the chat function or the Q&A function to ask your questions. Please ask as many questions as possible. We will do our best to answer as many questions as possible. So thank you for listening. My name again is Kabiru Mohammed Aliyu. We welcome you to this particular webinar today. So Dr. Ram, I will be handing over to you now for your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kabiru. Welcome, all of you. Good morning. Hope my audio is coming through okay.
Yes, it's very clear. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Okay. So again, thanks for giving me an opportunity to talk to you about, or rather more interact with you about customer experience. in fact, from this meeting, I'm hoping to learn a lot from all of you here because, it's more important about, what, you are facing in the field. What kind of experiences do your customers, want from your businesses? And from our perspective, we've sort of built tools that can try and enable to be able to build experiences, right? But there's a lot that's happening today. There's a lot of innovation that's happening today. There's a lot of requirements that are coming in. More importantly, we would want to try and see how do we address all this with the tools that we have. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a walkthrough of some generic idea. I'm going to be sharing my screen in a minute. I'll walk you through some general observations about what the customers' expectations are, and I'll also walk you through a tool that we've built in our startup company. Our startup company's name is Cupid. We are based out of California, and we are technology partners of Avaya, right? So there's and most of us have a lot of experience. We were all Avaya team, and so we've been in this space, for more than 20 years, right? Many of us were in AT&T, Lucent, and Avaya, and we are now looking at it as a nice complementary adjunct to the Avaya solutions, right? So we'll go over that. I'll be happy to answer some questions. I mean, I said, it's going to be very interactive. I'm really excited by the fact that things are changing so fast, and specifically in Africa, I'm seeing, and you've leapfrogged other continents, other countries in terms of how social media is changing the way that you deliver customer service, right? So I'm going to be touching on points related to, what are happening there. In fact, as I said, it's just a lot more learning for us. How do we, bring in AI to fruition, especially when you're dealing with, all these different customers with social media. So we'll sort of walk through in some detail here. So let me, share my screen. And let me know once you're able to see my screen, and then we can sort of get started on this. So let me put this in presentation mode here, and let me know if you can you see my screen now?
Yes, doctor, we can see your screen. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. So the topic is really, we call, improving customer experience. How do we orchestrate customer experience using AI and artificial intelligence and machine learning, right? It's still, the field is in its infancy. There's a lot of, progress that's been made. There's a lot of things that can be improved. So I'll walk you through some use cases where we've actually deployed this. I can tell you, some of the ROI that people are seeing with this. I can walk through some of the, difficulties people are, having in this. So there's a lot of very interesting conversations over this particular topic. The whole idea is, right now, the fact that people come in through social channels, you just can't provide a vanilla service to your end customers, right? It doesn't matter if you're a big bank or, or even if you are a very small SME or a very small size business, right? The expectation is that customers would want you to, give them the best of experience. The minute you give them the best of experience, then obviously they are your loyal customers, and your customers start to grow, right? And with just doing this on voice, possibly is a good way of doing it, because you can provide that human touch with voice. But clearly, as you get more and more customers, it's going to be very hard for for somebody to do a live voice only based contact center. This is where, and now also the other big trend that's happening is in the era of digital, right? So we call these all is the digital world today. Previously people were very comfortable, calling a contact center. Just to give you an example, if you call the California, Department of Motor Vehicles today, right? You will have to be on the phone line for 2 hours 45 minutes before you reach an agent. Now tell me, who would like to sit and wait, right? Very, very frustrating customer experience, right? So clearly the fact that you don't know when your agent is available, it's just so many calls that's happening, right, leaves a very poor customer experience. So in many of these cases, right, the theme is use technology, use AI, use ML to provide as much as possible automation services, right? And the theme today is really to provide as rich automation services as possible. What we call this as automation journeys, automation experiences, and how do you rapidly create in the tool that we have built with Avaya, right? And because of this, right, because of the fact that you have this digital expectation as that you know the customer well, because you have different ways of getting information, the context about the customer. They want this transaction to be hyper personal, so when somebody comes in, possibly the second time, you possibly know that they're coming in for checking the status, or hey, my order has not been received. Any of these things, it should be able to trigger. So there's no point in giving a very static menu to people and saying press 1, press 2 for this, right? Because that means we are not personal, right? Forget being hyper personal. So the whole idea of using AI and ML is to try and sort of one disaggregate so that you can easily find out what you're looking for, provide your end customers the appropriate choices, so that so the AI really, AI can be used in multiple ways. AI can be used in one, understanding what the customer wants, and that's typically called natural language processing. The other part of AI is, once I know what you are looking for, how do I get this to be achieved? How do I create this frictionless journey in as few steps as possible, right? So that's really the other big part of AI that we are emphasizing on, right? Because traditionally, the first part of AI, trying to understand what the customer is saying, you've seen it through your usage of Siri, with Google Home, Amazon Alexa, Echo. All these devices sort of give you phenomenal NLP, and trying to say, okay, play the song for me, play that song for me. That is obviously using a lot of speech pattern recognition and AI to get that. But as I said, I mean, those are some things that we also do in terms of text, but we also will give you the other aspects of AI that's sort of less spoken about, but very relevant in this particular space when you're doing customer journey orchestration. So in terms of how as a business, how do you start to create a strategy that meets your customer preference, right? So these are what we call as smart services for the savvy customer. There are different, I mean, these slides are available to you, so I'm just sort of going to give you a very high level view about expectations in the digital world. Again, the big change between a standard voice only world and a digital world is really one fundamental thing that has changed, right? And that parameter, or the dimension that has changed, is it being from a predominantly synchronous mode of communication. When I mean synchronous mode of communication, is I have a customer calling in, talking to an agent, it's synchronous, to a asynchronous world where I'm leaving a message on WhatsApp. For instance, I'm getting onto a flight and I'm saying to my bank, I'm traveling to Nigeria. I need my credit card to be enabled there, right? And then I switch off my phone, don't necessarily wait for an answer. I get off the plane in Nigeria. and then and I get a message saying that, hey Ram, your card has been enabled, right? Or we've gotten this request. If you're okay with it, we are going to enable this for you for this many, dollars, or this many, for currency value, so that we want to make sure that you're still protected if there's any potential issues. All these are happening asynchronously, because I am sort of putting this conversation before getting into a flight. Maybe it's midnight. There's something that's an automation at the back end, may or may not tell me immediately. But when I get back, again, it's asynchronous. I get back. So there's a lot of conversations that happen in an asynchronous manner. And today, if you look at it, a lot of customers actually prefer having customer service in an asynchronous fashion, right? Only when there's an emergency, right? I need to be taken to a hospital. I need something. I right. That's when potentially, obviously, voice, is the king, and people would prefer that human touch. But otherwise, for more or less other things, it's better to, I ask my question, I do my work, I come back, I get a notification, I look at something like a loan processing, for instance, or or I've gone for doing a medical test. I've done the test, I've scheduled an appointment using my bot. I've done the test, I found out, and then finally I don't have to keep calling to find out if my results are in. I get a notification when my results are in, and then I can see my health results. In fact, we have deployed this in a company in India, in a diagnostic company in India, because one of their main pain points was that people would keep calling, and everybody's anxious to know, what are my test results? Am I okay? Did I test okay? Right? This nervousness, this constant thing, they keep calling. Instead, right now they've been, it's a polite message saying that, folks, the results are going to be, sent to you on a link. Hang in there. It should be available within the next 2 to 3 hours or whatever. And notification comes. They click on the notification. The good news is nothing is spoken. It's all privacy encoded. You have to enter your password. You're the only person who is able to see the report. You're able to then save this as a PDF, and it's a persistent storage. Look at the value of getting such an experience, because it's all digital, right? It's digital, it's asynchronous, and that is really the power of why small, medium, large, all of them want to embrace, right, this particular paradigm. So clearly, with the digital paradigm, you can get far more personalized services, drastically improve your self-service option. You can do all kinds of data protection, because this is very, very important in the digital world, right? You want to be protecting your data. There should be privacy. Where is this data being stored? There's governmental regulations, there's other regulations that you may have, there's HIPAA compliance for health, right? There's GDPR compliance, for in terms of what data you're collecting. All this become paramount as when you're looking for technology. I mean, these are all you have to make sure that all these check boxes are ticked, right? Then it's the option of a digital branch, right? So it's all about you going into a virtual environment, being able to interact with a support bot, being able to if it's for support, for sales, for upsell, for doing all these things, significantly enhance the customer, being very hyper personalized. Obviously, compliance is a big thing, right? All this sort of relate, finally get you what we call as a smart contact center, right? So these, many of these things are already happening today. You've already obviously experienced many of these things, and sort of, I mean, in some ways, reiterating some of these things, right? And we've sort of brought in many of these things. We have, in some of the examples I'm going to show you later in the demo is how do we bring in biometrics like face recognition for authenticating customers? How are we going to, bring in sentiment analysis? How do I bring in social media into the contact center? How do we do mood analysis, right? How do we do workflow optimization? All these things are going to be, can easily be handled on the platform. And we'll also sort of try and show you some demos related to this. And as I said, many of these technologies, are obviously evolving, right? But these are the technologies that sort of fueling the revolution of using AI and ML, right? It's all about analytics. Analytics is very, very key because if you understand, so typically when we deploy this, right? We advise our end customers, don't just simply put a bot right there, right? Because it doesn't make sense. You don't know what kind of questions are coming, right? And putting in a bot in many places within a good amount of times, people put in bots, very dissatisfied, customers are upset, and the bot is removed, right? One of the key things is you really have to go back, maybe continue that live messaging service, understand what that pattern is for the agents, right? Then try and build something so that it helps the agents to be more productive. As the agents are more productive, fewer agents are needed to solve more larger and larger customer issues. And then you sort of progress into automation, which really means that you can get a lot of mundane tasks, right, to be able to be handled by your bots, right? Then you start getting your bots to be smarter and smarter, right? And then you will start seeing there are a lot of use cases based on analytics that even the customer experience is even better using something like an automated journey rather than a live interaction, right? We've also shown this. For instance, we did a couple of use cases at Mashreq Bank in UAE, where people had to they were complaining about late payment charges, right? Very frustrated. They call in, they have to wait into a contact center. They cannot do this on their mobile phone. They cannot do it on the portal. There's nothing called trying to correct this late payment for me. They call an agent. After waiting, they're frustrated. Plus, it's they're calling in because they're angry that the bank has charged them a late payment fee. Then the agent says, hold on, let me go back, check which month, do all that stuff while they're patiently waiting. Only agent gets to see all that stuff. Customer has no idea what's happening, right? This is not a great experience for your end customers, right? Instead, if I go in and type and say, hey, I want to dispute my late payment charges, right? And then it automatically says, okay, Ram, I see that in the last 6 months, here are the statements. Here's, in the month of June, we see that you're not paid your amount. You paid an amount, but it was not the full amount, and this was when we received it, and this is why we charge you a late fee, right? All this nicely put into your mobile phone view, right? And then you immediately understand what it is, right? Then you can go back and say, can I request for a waiver, and possibly using your if the system detects that you've been a customer that's always been paying on time, can automatically go back, waive the fee. So it transforms your customer experience even better than a live agent. So in some of these cases, it's not that the AI is smart enough. It's more that sometimes it's even for a agent, they may not have the right tools. It may take them some time. It may be they have to translate what they see on their screen into speech for somebody. Instead, why not have this AI solution that's actually going to give you a very rich visual, right, representation of the question that's being asked, and a visual representation of the solution proposed, right? That's really what we are getting at. Other things, I mean, this is relates to omni-channel, having more than just speech, having visual activities. There's more research that's being happened in augmented reality. So there's sort of a lot of work being there for helping both the live agents and also for the customers. Obviously intelligent routing, routing into, once you know what it is, then it's easy for getting the context. And then what Avaya calls this as attribute based routing, collect as many attributes and intelligently route this to the appropriate agent. Blockchain. So a lot of these technologies are driving, driving, and it's just not one technology, right? It's the combination of these multiple technologies that is really helping improve the customer experience. So in general, what we are saying is benefits of using something like an AI tool for automation. Obviously, we can potentially get high satisfaction rates, responsiveness, right? Rather than waiting, there's a lot of things that happen. In case agents are busy, it can tell the customers, hey, agents are all busy, but please, leave your query here. If the bot is not unable to answer that query, it's not just about answering queries, it's potentially doing transactions. If for whatever reason, the bot, for security reasons is unable to do, let's say, potentially an international wire transfer, it'll always say, give me all the details, and then I can then transfer it to an agent, and the agent will get back to you at your convenient time, right? So moving something asynchronous into an asynchronous conversation. Why does that help? Because it helps the businesses to plan out rather than getting 100 calls per minute, right? Why don't we spread this out using a bot to a more something that you have more people at a certain time, work towards your convenience and make that happen? And how do we do that? There are techniques like call deflection, right? That I'm also going to show you in a demo. Today, we've deployed this call deflection. In many cases, customers call in, we immediately say, or let's say the customers are in a queue, they are upset that they have long wait times, they abandon the call, right? At that point, you can pick up abandoned calls and then immediately send a message back, a text message back saying that, apologies for the call being dropped, but please click on this link to get a direct digital service, right? So a lot of things have been happening because the voice contact centers, especially during COVID times, have been severely stressed. So a good way is to move, a small percentage of these calls, small, medium, large percentage of these calls into a digital, because the advantage of going again digital from an agent perspective too is that you can have one agent serving multiple customers. In voice, obviously, it's only you're able to serve one customer at a time, right? So imagine with messaging, you're able to obviously, take 2 or 3 or 4 calls, right? Now in comes social media. When you do social media, right, you're getting 50,000 posts a minute, right? Imagine electricity company, power lost. You can't go back and address these 50,000 posts that are just pouring into your contact center. You have to get technologies that will go back, analyze these posts, and then possibly do one of two things, right? You don't want to do too much automation there. You don't want to go back and embarrass by putting some misunderstanding certain things. Instead, you go back and post benign post saying that, hey, we've seen an outage. Please click on this link to get the details of the outage, right? That's one example. So it's possibly that most of the people are calling because there's an outage. They click on that link, they get to see what it is, where that outage is, and if required, they can click on the link and it can bring them back into direct messaging, right? Or through a bot. So as much as possible, public, we try and move it to a more one-to-one with a bot. And in a small number of cases, maybe 1/100th of those cases, very influential people tweeting, then perhaps this has to be addressed immediately by your agents. We can go back and route it through to your via agent, only those handful things, so that we know that it's not going to cause any, and obviously, as I said, a very influential person tweeting may cause a lot of damage in terms of PR. So we can address many of these things. So this is where you front end all these contact centers with a very rich digital, what we call as a digital concierge. And today we, I'll show you some examples in WhatsApp, Facebook, all kinds of Twitter, and clearly there's an ROI right there, because there's obviously, scalability, ROI, ease of, getting automation experiences. There's an ROI right there. Fewer number of agents, more productive agents, more analytics. So clearly AI and ML, it takes time. Nothing happens overnight, right? It's important to be patient. It's important to have the right way. It's just not about patience, right? It's obviously there is a method in the madness here. You can't expect something to work immediately. It is what we call as iterative automation. So you will have to do this over a couple of months, then you start seeing significant results into your contact center. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit here, sort of give you a little bit more insights. What I spoke to you was more in a generic, but I'm going to give you a glimpse of our tool, which we have, which enables what we call as hyper automation of customer facing processes. We want to be able to make sure. You see, we always we are we are cognizant of the fact that human assistance is invaluable, but how do you seamlessly weave in automation with human assistance? We obviously want to be able to provide a tool that when you build an experience, it should be used across different inputs, different media, social media, for instance. And then, it's not about it's an island. It has to integrate with an existing contact center that you may or may not have. Sometimes you have invested in a rich contact center. You're quite happy with it, but you want to be able to interweave, overlay, providing potentially a SaaS overlay, a cloud overlay to your existing contact center, and we help that. And then finally, rapidly and at very low cost, try and build these experiences, right? So the whole idea is we don't expect to keep building newer and newer experience for you, because we give you a tool where you're able to quickly, like Lego blocks, try and build these different with very less coding effort, right? We don't need a much coding in our tool. We just sort of, it's like a workflow tool that you quickly add a few things and create a newer experiences. So as I said, the key here in what we know is in our solution is in the middle one. That is, we take all these different channels that's coming in, whether it's a WhatsApp, Facebook, Apple Business Chat, Instagram. We are trying to be able to provide this automation overlay, right? We try and see how much we can do, and this is the one that sort of potentially would get better over time, and then be able to finally, if it's unable to, always give a path into a human interaction, right? But that human interaction can be immediate, calling it, you can make it a synchronous, or it can be an asynchronous where it goes back and then potentially the business gets back to the customer either on asynchronous channels like WhatsApp or email, or potentially try and call them back, right? So if you look at it, again, this is sort of an example of how we can provide these services. It's all about customers may stop somewhere in the middle. How do you resume a prior conversation? How do you expect them to basically ask a question, right? Instead of going back and seeing fixed set of menus, right? Because sometimes you can't have 100 menus. Going to a website sometimes can be intimidating because I don't know how quickly I can find it. Rather, I open up, it's like my personal butler. I go back and say, as I said, dispute my late payment charges, or I need some help today, right? You just sort of type it in and it'll start giving you the relevant options. Or you can come back and say, there's a promotion offer. A lot of people are asking that promotion offer. Don't even make them type it. Just sort of put it up front right there and say, okay, folks, you haven't updated your KYC, and that's the first thing you have to do in order for you to do any transaction, right? So all these things can be right there. Or quickly connect me to an agent because it's an emergency. I need to talk to an agent. I have no time to talk to any automation automaton, right? And so this is really what we have. If you look on the right side, is a series of visuals that's been created. Now, these visuals that you see here is not something that you code on Android or an iOS. You just have to build this workflow on our designer tool, and the output of it are all these experiences that you see here. So the good news is you don't have to worry about it. You build that experience on our tool, it'll work on your smartphones, and we have tailored it more from a smartphone usage because we realize that's where your customers are going to reach out. Maybe 10% will actually take a laptop and try and reach out to you, right? More or less everything does everything on us on a cell phone. So we, from an AI perspective, we accurately infer intent and context using UI or natural language input. Then we sequence, what should be, as I said, our AI is more on what are these so-called micro journeys that's needed in order to get customer from point A to point B, right? And then purposefully guide to an outcome using the appropriate channels and the resources, right? So that's really in a nutshell what what we and why our technology is a little unique, a little different from what you see in the market. This is how we use AI to be able to generate what we call as purposeful journeys, right? So typically what we do is when we go in, we look at, rather than saying we'll put a standard chat bot, so it's like a broad brand, you take a broad brush and say, I'll put a chat bot on my website. That's one way of looking at it, right? But we have seen that that may not be the best strategy. Instead, what we go back and say, what are the top, what are the top 10 reasons that's really what your major customer, calls are about, right? Or that customer frustration is about. Let's take, maybe 80% of it is just by these 10 different things, 5 different things that, it's almost like saying, I have a building, I have like 5 cracks, right? How do I go and inject, material into those cracks, right? Like an injection molding, and find out and fix those cracks, right? That's exactly where we sort of you take our technology, go back, create a purposeful workflow, it'll fix that, optimize that for you, right? So that's one way of looking at it, because we are able to, as I said, go in and selectively optimize certain processes in your system. And we have sort of with Avaya, we have deployed this, for automation for web. I told you about call deflections. We have done it through social media. Many of our customers are using it for social media. Some of them are just simply used for collecting information, all that information, rather than the agent wasting time getting all that information while the customer is waiting. Get all that information to make the average call handling, reduce the average call handling time. So the other big trend that's happening in the market today is all about deflecting. As I think I spoke to you a little earlier, or you would say, so you call Mashreq Bank in UAE today. It says we've introduced a new digital service. There's a long wait, hold time. Please, if you want to talk, if you want to get, if you want to continue waiting for an agent, press 1, or if you rather send a link to you, go digital, click 2. They click 2. Then a link is sent, and then when that link is opened, it's a very rich visual interface that they see on the cell phone, and they can pretty much get all kinds of very interesting service. I want my account information, I want to report an outage, I want to change the service, whatever I want to do. I want to be able to talk to have a live messaging session. Everything can can easily be done, right? You can sort of transform that and move people quickly into a digital channel. And we've sort of done this for governments, for city council services. People want to do pothole reporting, take a quick picture and tell the government or the municipal corporation about, hey, this is what's happening. A lot of times, rather than just you figuring out there's a pothole, you want to obviously get down, take a quick picture, upload it there, and then say here's what's needed, so that you can help the government or municipal corporation to resolve all these issues quickly. Then we have obviously, with all this COVID stuff, we've got a lot of COVID engagements where we are trying to have people do self test, try and provide tests, have the score sent in, and then if the tests are beyond a certain threshold, then have a try and orchestrate somebody to come visit the patient. We've also done this for in Egypt. We have done it for visually, hearing impaired, hearing impaired, personnel. So a lot of these things are visual in nature, right? So there's a lot of sign language that we sort of interweave sign language videos into our bot. We're doing this with Ooredoo in Kuwait. This is more about a lot of customer service. Now 20% of the voice calls has now been transformed into customers being very comfortable to be able to have live messaging with agents on WhatsApp, right? So the next part we're going to be doing them, so it's moving them to an asynchronous interaction. Now we are providing WhatsApp on these different channels, so that they automation on these WhatsApp channels, so that you can bring in a lot of self-service without having to reach out to an agent. We have done, obviously improved resolutions for companies in the US. It's all about during the end of the month, there's a payment, they want to defer payment. I want to make sure some payment didn't go through, all these different things can easily be addressed, through what we call as sort of think about it like a smart visual IVR, which is which also gives you what we call as a just-in-time experience, and ability to have more of a conversational aspects to this. So same thing. I mean, and I just want to now focus more on really where how do we do this, right? So we built a technology that uses intent maps, training. We have a workflow designer where you go back and design these workflows, and then a channel optimizer to optimize and provide a closed loop AI. Excuse me, I just get some water here. So here is an example of the tool in action, where you you can build a workflow. You're able to map those intents, and then you will see on the left side it automatically generates the UI. So that's as easy as that. Literally, we've had our customers take our tool, build all these different UIs, I mean, I wouldn't say just a UI, it's an experience. Build these experiences literally in hours, right? So we get to have a chat with them. For many SMEs, within about a week to 2 weeks, we're able to provide very rich, compelling, as I said, find out what are the 5 or 6 or 10 or 20 or 50 journeys that needs to be optimized. Come in, spend a few hours on each of these journeys. Sometimes, literally in 15 minutes, you build that journey and you can start deploying these, right? So that's really the power of the platform. So just to sort of summarize what we have, really, because a lot of time people say, oh, we've seen this, what's different. So in a nutshell, we use conversational UI and natural language. We don't emphasize on NLP because that's one of the reasons why a lot of these bots fail, right? Instead, we use auto suggest UI, autofill phrases. We have this concept of neighboring intents, so that you don't have to get confused at any point of time. It sort of brings in, it tries to disambiguate in the way it gives you, right? So in case you're asking about a loan, it may be that you may have about loan processing time. It may be a personal loan, an auto loan. Rather than trying to say, directly take you into, say, an auto loan, which you may not be looking for, it sort of gives you more, generic information, and gives you the option of, go in and foveate on these different aspects of specific loans or specific information that you need, right? So how do you creatively construct that is sort of handled by our AI. And easily automate, build and deploy in 1 hour is really what we sort of take pride in talking about, how quickly we can build these. And then extend the self-service journey to a contact center. How do we move this context into agents? And what are the other tools that we can provide for the agent that can improve agent efficiency too, right? And then in AI, right, the real key in AI is continuous learning engine. So there are times, a good amount of times, where the AI does not cut it. There will be what we call as fallback workflows. There's something called false positives, false negatives. It's very important that during the first few months, we understand what are the fallback flows. Why is it that it's not understanding? Perhaps the bot needs to be retuned. Perhaps new intents have to be added. All these things will start improving, and typically it starts to asymptote, right? So it takes about sometimes takes about, depending upon the complexity, takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months before you start seeing, you'll start seeing ROIs, pretty much immediately, but you'll start to see you can solve more and more complex issues after a few months, right? So that's typically how we've asked our customers: start simple, start seeing the benefits, then look at the next step. So slowly sort of, start to crawl, then walk, and then we can start running with the tool. So finally, sort of to close on this conversation, we provide an overlay on any of the Avaya's contact center, your ACCS, ACR. I mean, for more mid-market and big sizes, ACC, Oceana, and Elite, and then rapidly design self-service across different channels, and then connect your digital interaction from your web, SMS, social media, all these. So you start building automation journeys that you can provide automation on any of these channels, right? So the good news is once you build an automation, it's easy for you to just sort of almost cut and paste and use it for the other channels. And then we also went through deflection. How is all this sort of revolutionizing in terms of improving the productivity? On one aspect, we're improving the productivity of the contact center, and in the other aspect is driving customer experience, right? How do we start giving customer experiences that it's almost you've not had these experiences before, or it was very expensive to start getting these customer experiences, right? And that typically you've seen some customer experiences, they're very nicely done, right? But there's a lot of cost involved in building those experiences, right? Very sophisticated, Android app, iOS apps, right? Very, very expensive to do. One of the key goals is to simplify that whole experience so that you can rapidly build these experiences and very compelling experiences without having to know how to do this on, as I said, in an Android technology or an iOS technology. So we just sort of do this all in HTML5 experiences. So that's really I'll sort of pause here, and I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions. So let's sort of move into the questions session.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ram, for the presentation. It was really very impactful and insightful around some key concepts that you mentioned or talked about, basically around simplifying conversation using AI, which in turn leads to decision making, right? Looking at decision making at your convenience. In the example that you cited around the somebody traveling and then having to be asked, certain questions that would, lead to some decision making. Looking at data protections and privacy as well. What can automation do? What can be left behind? So there's been a number of, insights that you have given today. So we will be going now slowly into the panel discussion, right? We're going slowly into the panel discussion, and there we would, just take some more questions, just to further buttress the points, right, around what Dr. Ram has covered. After the panel discussion, we would go into a demo session, right? Just to look at some of the solutions from a back-end perspective, just to see how interactive the solutions are. Then we would then go into Q&A. So please begin to chat your questions. For the purpose of the flow of the conversation, we're only going to take questions via chat. So you can chat your questions, and then we'll do our very best to answer as best as possible. So in learning, you would teach, and in teaching, you would learn, by Phil Collins. Thank you, Dr. Ram, for blessing us today with a lot of information. The slides would be shared, and then the recording as well will be made available on various social media pages, so you can follow the conversation should in case you missed out on anything. So moving straight into the conversation, into the panel discussion. We have a question that I would like for Peace to one of the panel members to fulfill, which is, how do you formulate customer experience strategy? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohammed, and everyone on the call. I would like to, first of all, give us an overview of what a customer experience is all about. customer experience is simply the sum total of all the interactions between the customer and an organization. This is from discovery to initiation to the purchase to service and even advocacy. In formulating the customer experience strategy, there are a couple of things that organizations need to look into. The first is you need to understand your audience. You need to be able to create buyer personas, the kind of people that interact with your business on a day-to-day. Secondly, you need to analyze your business mission, your vision, and the processes involved in your business to be able to formulate your customer experience strategy. Another aspect is you need to work backwards from the experience you want to deliver. You want to do some reverse engineering from the solution you want to provide to your audience. After that, you need to hire team players. You need to work in your employees need to be able to have that team synergy, and you need to get them to invest in the process, your business process. You need to also eliminate bad design early in the game, because you as you are in business, you're in competition, you're constantly in competition with others. You need to be able to spot bad design and eliminate it early in your business. After that, you need to attend to customers' need and use feedback loops. Feedback is very, very key to formulating your customer experience strategy. You need to be able to look out for loops in the process from the feedback you've garnered from your audience, from your customers, and those who interact with your business. Another aspect that businesses shy away from is you need to research your competitors. You are not in business alone. There are other people who are in the same line of businesses with you. You need to research your competitors, and you need to create goals and objectives that will give you a competitive advantage in business. Build systems for quick and effective resolutions of issues that come up in the business process and in your interaction with your customers. You need to incorporate a memorable brand personality. Your brand has to speak to your audience. It is very key. And we're talking about AI and machine learning here today. You need to also apply artificial intelligence and machine learning to deliver a better experience, because sometimes there are human deficiencies can come in. That is when the machines do not have emotions. They don't have a bad day. When you apply artificial intelligence and machine learning, you're able to deliver a better experience. Replace marketing with customer service. That's another thing. You don't want to be in the face of your clients always tending to sell. You need to bring an emotion, because the right emotion, when sparked in your audience, will lead to conversion, sales. You need to understand your customer experience metrics as well. It is very key. Well, we're talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning. Now it is powered by data. You need to be able to understand those metrics that are key to your business that you need to analyze. You make use of technology and tools. And another very important thing, you need to optimize your customer experience strategy. It's an ongoing process. It's not a one-off. It's not just a one-off process that you do. It's something that you keep doing in your business. You need to keep measuring, you optimize and repeat the process and eliminate what is not, what didn't pay off in the beginning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that piece. Thank you for the explanation. And I think one of the points that you did mention was basically around feedback being a gift and also the point that you need to optimize your strategy to be able to take those feedback to transform your customer experience. So again, I believe that Dr. Ram would have covered some of this point, but we want to just ask another question to say, what do customers need to put in place before looking at artificial intelligence and machine learning from the context of customer experience? Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah, and I think that's a great question, right? So typically when we have these engagement sessions with our end customers, right? It's a lot about before building everything. Obviously, we need to understand what what are the pain points, right? What are the top 10 reasons? As I said, when we worked with big companies or small companies, we asked them, okay, what are the top 5 or top 10 reasons customers are coming from? There's a lot of data that people don't know that they already have, and one of the key things is we do a lot of debriefing also with the contact center agents just to understand what kind of questions that's coming up. If they have chat, they have chat transcripts. So all this data that a company has would be very valuable to us, or to start piecing together that story. It's all about relevant context, right? And then once we have all the data, the raw data that we have, we see things that happen, or sometimes people don't even know that, right? So then the question is, what are you going to be doing in terms of pushing out surveys? There's a lot of surveys that company already do. We look at the surveys. If not, we tell them how do we constructively, while doing this journey, create these different surveys. So there's a lot of before we actually start coding on a system, there's a good amount of work that it's a lot of conversations, discovery sessions to try and piece together what we call as what kind of an experience we want. And this experience is driven through what we call as a digital flow diagram, right? So I'm sort of focusing more on bringing in AI, bringing in digital into the customer side. Very straightforward. It's just that there's a lot of data available. Put that data in a little bit of a structured way, and then start being able to saying, okay, let's take the current agent experience that they may already have, analyze that, and see what are the things that we can do in order to improve the efficiency of agents, and then slowly work our way. And as I said, we can start building all these different workflows and get them a very optimized experience. So it's all about creating, understanding the problem, creating these different workflows on paper, getting data from their existing agents, perhaps even doing some quick survey with their customers, and then piecing together the design plan.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ram, for that response. This is very, very perfect in terms of how people can start considering, artificial intelligence and some of the pre-work and the planning work, and from a structured, unstructured data that needs to be looked at before meaningful interaction can be held. So basically, we're now going to move into the next question. So we'll call again on Peace, just to give a view of what the role of artificial intelligence and machine learning would be in the context of customer experience. I would also probably call on Dr. Ram as well to support this question after Peace response. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much once again, Mohammed. Okay, I'd like to start by saying that there is a recent research that puts it that by 2025, as many as 95% of all customer interactions will be through channels supported by artificial intelligence technology. Now, I'm going to now go through the role of artificial intelligence in customer experience. AI is successfully employed, and it provides an intelligent, convenient, and informed customer experience at any point along the customer journey. It results in reimagined customer experience and end-to-end customer journeys that are integrated and more personal. Machines are trained to think like humans based on previous experiences in that customers have interacted with the system. AI is actually a game changer in customer experience. With AI, we're able to unleash so much value across customer experience. Salespeople, call center agents, employees in other customer-facing roles cannot be expected to understand a customer's entire history and derive their own insights from it in real time. This is where machine learning now helps to be able to with what the machine has learned over time in the customer behavior along the journey, is able to predict and also offer the required response and help the customer service personnel, call center agents, contact center agents to be able to give out the right information at the right time to the relevant persons that are calling in or interacting with the business. I would like to just do a little data on developments around artificial intelligence and its concerns customer experience. 15% of enterprises are using AI as of today, but 31% are expected to add it over the coming 12 months, and that is just in less than a year from now that we're speaking. 4% of enterprises believe investing in AI will lead to greater competitive advantages. There's no downplaying on when we talk about competitive advantage. AI stands key in this. 75% of businesses believe that AI will open up new businesses while also providing competitors new ways to gain access to their markets. 63% believe that pressure to reduce costs will require the use of artificial intelligence. It's reducing costs. Artificial intelligence is helping businesses achieve this. There is also a study that by 2021, the AI healthcare market is expected to hit $6.6 billion, according to Accenture data. Clinical health AI applications will be able to create about $150 billion in annual savings for the US healthcare economy alone by 2026. Those are projections. Juniper Research, in a recent study, discovered that in retail, global spendings in artificial intelligence will grow to about $7.3 billion a year by 2022. That is just in less than 2 years from now, which is against $2 billion alone that it was as at 2018. This is because businesses and companies will invest heavily in artificial intelligence tools that will help them differentiate and improve services they offer to their customers. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for that piece. Dr. Ram, I don't know if you have just some supporting comments before we move to the next question. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think, Peace has articulated very well. I think she's pretty much covered all that. Even in the state of, ML and AI, there's a lot of, improvements being done, in deep learning technologies there. So things have drastically improved in terms of analytics. It's all about data crunching. It's all about, it's significantly, the way I look at it is more even, on one part is improvements in, semiconductor technology. So obviously there's a lot of stuff that's happening, if you obviously seen the, all the Echo, all these different gadgets are getting just smarter and smarter and smarter and smarter, right? But also very, very simple things like ATM machines. You go into an ATM machine, you take out your scanner in case your card is stuck. You take a quick view of it, and then automatically it sort of senses, okay, I know where you are, I know what you're calling regarding. I can sort of help you right now. So essentially trying to, how do you use AI and ML to reduce the customer's anxiety level, right? These are things that people are sort of focusing on, just so that you get a very delightful experience. And lot of progress has happened in these areas. And I see a question here on the chat. It talks about for organizations that are looking at reducing the number of human agents attending to repeated call, implement AI takes away the human intelligence, and how will ML and AI handle security challenges? I'll just give you 2 cents for that answer. I mean, two things in my view, especially when you're doing security related stuff, you will need to sort of leverage on AI and ML. In fact, other things relating to various other, it can be a little harder, but especially with computer vision algorithms, voice recognition, face recognition, fingerprint recognition are all unbelievably good these days, right? So you can even detect a full family coming into airports coming today. You don't have to go one by one, right? A whole family goes in, it identifies 3, 4, 5 faces and says, yeah, it's all done. So you can have multi-level check-in, not feasible today with humans, right? So some of these things, especially security challenges, there's a phenomenal influx of AI and ML to especially strengthen the security. So that's really my view about this.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ram, for that, and thank you very much, Peace, for that question. Based on our time, we have one more question for the panel discussion, and this goes to Dr. Ram. I think this is just a specific question around how does Avaya, specifically customer experience solution, benefit business? Should business build in-house or buy? I think it's just from a context of some companies have developers in-house. Should they build or should they buy or should they partner? What is the key decision criteria? Thank you.
Yeah, no, great question here. Typically, just based out of experience, working with many companies, it is not easy to start your own, in-house technologies to do many of these things, right? Because many of these things can be banks, retail, very unlikely. They want to be able to focus on, their businesses. So it is probably better to work with a company that's focusing on trying to, improve on the state of the art, right? So clearly, I've worked with many customers, including things like I was telling you about Ooredoo, Mashreq Bank. Everybody thought that they have enough data, they'll start being able to build their own experiences, right? Not a trivial job. The data that they have, very, very valuable, right? It's really more about that collaboration. It's all about the collaboration, that the data, the experience that a business has, but starts to work with a company that's focused on customer experiences to get these experiences out, right? So I would highly recommend that, that collaboration is what is changing the name of the game today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ram, for that. We really appreciate your time on the panel and your experience. Thank you very much, Peace, as well. So at this juncture, I'll be handing over back to Dr. Ram to just do a very short demo, around about 5, at most 10 minutes demo. And then we will then see if we have any question and answer to fulfill. So please, guys, continue to post your questions in the chat function. We will try and take as much question as we can take after the brief demo from Dr. Ram. Thank you. I believe you can now go ahead and share your screen. Thank you.
Okay, let me share my screen here. So let me know when you can see my screen. And I've also shared my, are you able to see my screen? I've also shared my mobile here. So if you are able to see on the left side, it says PH1. That's really my mobile screen that's shown on the screen here. Are you able to see that?
Yes, I can see. We can see that. Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, great. So what I'll do is I'll just walk you through one or two simple demo scenarios that talk about a little bit about what automation experiences you can get, what are the agent experience that you can get, and a little bit of the social media weaved in, because obviously things like WhatsApp are really gaining a lot of traction, and more businesses want to be able to leverage all these social media for getting good customer service, right? So I'm going to be starting with a demo that I have for Mashrek Bank, right? So it gives you a little bit of power of what AI and ML can help you, right? Because it's going to be a little different from yours. As I said initially, it's all about with a mobile app you get a static experience, but how do we start improving the experience and getting it more capabilities so that you can infuse your AI and ML into the whole solution space, right? So let me open this up here. So before I do this, right? So let me actually backtrack a little bit, and let me see if I can show you a little bit about. Let's see if I go in, and yeah, I'm just going to play something which is more of that call deflect, right? So this is typically what how you do call deflect, and then when you get a call deflect, a link is sent into your phone, and then how do you start that experience? So let me start with that. I'm going to just call this number of a fictitious company. So I'll put it on speakerphone here.
Welcome to Enterprise Group. Due to the current situation, we are experiencing long hold times. However, we have introduced the digital concierge service. Press 1 to receive a text message with a link to digital self-service, or press 2 for other options.
So I'm going to be pressing 1.
A smart link has been sent to your number. Thanks for contacting us. Goodbye.
So this is typically what your call deflection story is, right? Either you make it very simple at the beginning, like what Mashrek Bank has done, or you can actually do some kind of authentication, voice authentication, all kinds of stuff, and then maybe for a specific part you want to be bringing digital journey, because let's say for an insurance company, they'll say please scan your registration card, your license plate, your odometer reading, right? Many of these things, it's very hard for you to do it on voice. In such things, they would send you a link and say, do this, and then you start getting that visual IVR experience, right? So that's where we have helped a number of companies in that space to be able to quickly deflect something. They want to make an address change. Very hard to do an address change. You don't want a human to do all that stuff. At the same time, you don't want an automated speech recognition engine, because you're going to have proper nouns there, may not get your address right. Why don't you just simply say, I'll send you a link, go back, enter your address, and when you're okay with it, scan your your card, something as an identity proof, and then submit it, right? And then we say the address has changed, we've got your new address in record, and your delivery shipment will be sent, right? So those are standard use cases that we have helped companies. Now after this, we've sent a link. So imagine that now when we have sent that link can come in on a WhatsApp channel, or it can come in on an SMS text channel. So when I click on that SMS text, what really happens right now is when I clicked on that link, you'll start seeing an experience that is more like, almost looks like an app for you, right? It's really not an app. It's more of an HTML5 experience, but it can connect back with the underlying. So if somebody already has a Mashrek Bank, it can be invoked from that app. But this is really what we call as a web app, or an HTML5 browser-based application here. So it because of various identity mechanism, it may ask me to authenticate on IVR. It knows who I am, and then it'll now there's a conversational interface that I'm having with this personal concierge. I can go in, as I give you an example of my late payment charge. So I'm going to try and walk through that demo here. let me, as I said, on this screen, I can probably type something, or in this case, I'm actually going to speak into it because I can use my cell phone's, speech recognizer so that I don't have to really type, right? So a lot of times, the speech input is much more easier, right? More intuitive, less effort on my part, but getting information on through audio is very sequential. I'd rather get a more visual experience, right? So how do you actually do this multimodal experience to get a much richer self-service experience? So I'm going to go in and say, I'm going to say a few things here using my microphone. So I'm going to click on the microphone icon here, dispute late payment charges, and I hit enter, right? So what I'm trying to tell the system is I'm having an issue. I'd like to get my late payment charges, right? And then what typically it does is, if it understands the intent, it's going to go back and say, if it doesn't understand the intent, it says, I can help you with, the standard set of options. I can help you with credit cards. I can help you with loans. I can help you with accounts, whatever it is. But in this case, it did understand. So what did it do? It actually said, okay, I'm asking for my late payment charge. It knows who I am. It makes the set of API calls, gets all the information, and then starts to construct a view for me, which tells me that here's my outstanding balance, here's my minimum due date, payment received, payment, all this stuff, right? Again, all this experiences is an output from the tool that we have. You don't have to go back and actually build I said, as an iOS and Android app. It's the experience that is pushed onto a browser interface. So I can then go back and say, now it'll tell me, yeah, because I received the payment after the due date, this was why it was charged to me. So as a customer, I sort of have all the information. I can always go back and dispute the late payment. I can go back and say, click on dispute late payment. It says, would you like to add a note? I can say yes. And then here I can, either type my message here, or I can just sort of speak into it and say, request for a first time waiver. And I hit enter. And then it'll go back, open the ticketing system, and it says, it creates a ticket on the bank's ticketing system saying that this customer Ram requested for a first time waiver. Now we could have put this into the system that, check Ram's credit record. If he's paid on time, maybe, I'm okay to do the first time waiver, but this is something that the bank will decide, right? Or else it will say, I'm going to, get some approvals for this. It starts to kickstart an approval workflow that you can build on our platform. And then a notification is sent to an approver. The approver clicks and they get a similar experience. It says, there's a request for a late payment removal. Would you like to approve it? Here are the details about this customer. And then the good news is the person who approves it has all the relevant information. It's all about giving the right information at the right time on the right device, right? That's really what we are trying to achieve. And then it's easy for somebody to approve it. And then another notification comes back and tells the customer, hey, you know what? Your late payment has been revoked and thanks for banking with us. So here, anything else that I can help you with, I can say yes. And then it'll ask me, would you, these menu items here are not static. It can vary based on, it finds out there's a lot of people during COVID times have asked for an easy payment plan. Perhaps, that's what I'm looking for. So this organization of these buttons, what happens in these buttons are not static, right? That's where the AI sort of drives and says, this is the trending one, or this is something that Ram's coming back for, possibly because I've not done a KYC, or puts something there and says, Ram's not done a KYC in 2 years. It's time for him to do a KYC, right? So all these buttons are more something that it derived from, the context. So I can go to easy payment plan, and then it says, this is your outstanding amount. Would you like to convert? I can say yes. And then it starts giving me more like a personal. I talked about hyper-personalization. This is what hyper-personalization means that it goes, it finds out, it says, hey, you know what, for Ram, who is a customer possibly, silver category, platinum category, whatever classification they may have, right? Give them something that can be a more customized interest rates for 3 months, for 6 months, for 9 months. So there's enough data that I have. Imagine I'm trying to make this conversation on voice with an agent, right? Very, very difficult. I can't see anything. They tell me, okay, for 9 months, interest payable is this, total amount, interest rates. These numbers will not make any sense to me if I'm on a voice call. But if I'm here, at my leisure, I'm able to sort of, get this kind of experience. So maybe I'm happy with the 6-month one. I can go back and confirm it. Then it says, okay, authenticate yourself. We need a little bit more, authentication. So I can go back and see if I can take a picture of myself right here. Let me take a picture. And if it, identifies me, it says Ram, because I've trained this I've given 4 pictures, profiles, and so it's trained on me, and it says, yeah, and it's been successfully submitted. The bank will notify you. And then it says, I also see that your KYC was last updated. Would you want to update this? I can say yes. Then it will say, fine, select the document that you would like to update. So, it gives me an option about, what kind of a document that I want to update. I want to say I want to update an ID proof. It says click on the icon. So I don't have to leave my mobile, right? So I'm getting all this stuff done quickly, without saying, go, scan this, come to the branch. I don't need any of those things. I'm just going to take a picture of my, ID card, send that in. I can even do an OCR on this card. It can detect these numbers. It can store it, and then it can do any upselling. Would you like to look at some, credit cards that's been offered? Again, you can selectively do upselling if required, because it says that, hey, we have noticed Ram did request for some cards in the past. So I can say, yes, I'd like to look at some cards. So it sort of gives me some options. Which card are you looking for? Are you looking for a Platinum Elite card? Are you looking for an S Miles? Maybe, hopefully I'm going to start traveling pretty soon. Again, hopefully the COVID situation improves. I can start to travel. I like to get my miles card. And then it says, here's the form. It pre-filled the form for you. And I can say, get everything is okay. I can go back and I can say confirm, right? So there's a lot of things that you can, do these self-services. Anything else I can help you with? I can say, no, I'm quite happy with what I have right now. Then it can push a more purposeful survey or CSAT survey and say, here's what the experience looks like. I can say, yeah, I like the experience, and close on it, right? So this is just a quick sample that, we can build on our tool. And that's really what I wanted to sort of, quickly give you. We've done this for banks. We've done this for retail organizations, a lot of potential industries, healthcare, governments. And then, the other part would be is to, whatever I showed you here, similar with the WhatsApp. And then the other part, is moving it into an agent, what kind of an agent experience. So just sort of give you a glimpse of, how that agent experience looks like. So if I can move it here. So here is an example of, what an experience would look like with an agent. So let me see if I can show you this here. So I'll sign in. Right, and this is like a Mashreq agent here. I can go back to a customer's view, and then it'll go back and show me all the different customers that I've had conversations with. It gives me a 360-degree view of what the customer did here. I can go in and say, this is what they came in. They asked for certain questions connected to maybe they came in on WhatsApp, maybe they came in on, so you can see some people may have come in on WhatsApp channel. So it tells me that they've come in on a WhatsApp channel, and I can have the same agent interface. Again, it's a browser-based interface, and then you're able to have a rich, whatever that I showed you on the automation channel, you could have these rich widgets that if you look on the right side here, I have this concept that I can push a credit card application, I can unfreeze a card, I can request a document to be sent by the customer. All these different workflows, right? So the whole concept in our technology is be able to provide either self-service workflows or agent workflows that can easily be pushed. And this drastically helps. One, it helps the productivity of the agent, and also helps the, obviously, even when there are conversations that we don't need an agent, it can do a very rich self-service. So in the interest of time, let me pause here. I'm sure that you may have some questions, and then we can, try and answer those questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ram, for that. This is a wow experience. The demo was interactive, it was intelligent, and we could easily see the ease of use, as you have been speaking consistently about throughout the webinar. However, there's a question that I believe that some of the audience might want to know is, what advice and suggestions would you give on customer experience related training and certification?
Yeah, so from that perspective, we do have, Avaya has a very rich, what is called as the Avaya University, where they have very rich training programs. One can subscribe to that. From a Coopit perspective too, we have a lot of these, we sort of have a similar thing called a help.coopit.ai link. Everything is online, and we sort of have three levels. One as a basic level, then we have a more intermediate level, and then an advanced level. Advanced levels are typically when you want to be able to do deep integrations into your system, or be able to provide more complex workflows. So we also have all these different videos that all 1 or 2 minute videos, because we feel that especially in the digital, that's the beauty of the digital transformation, right? Relatively simple, very templatized stories. There is as I said, build in an hour is really what we are looking at, right? So if you look at once we we probably can have some sessions where we'll walk you through how easy it is to add a channel, how easy it is to create a workflow. I've shown you on the set of slides. So that's really what we want to do. We don't necessarily believe certifications are all very useful, but that's typically for for some things in the digital era. It's more about being able to do this as much as possible very intuitively, right? So on one hand, we have Avaya brings you a very solid depth when you want to build IVR flows, when you want to build in customizations. And then we, from where Coopit will give you is an overlay and a set of training programs to provide all these self-services, right? And then how do we go back and do a little bit of configuration on our end to be able to pass the right context back in, so that the agent now is in a much better position to understand the whole journey that the customer had on self-service.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ram, for that. For time's sake, we wish we had more time. We wish we had more time, and we believe that we're going to be bringing you more of these webinars and more of this series. It has really been an eye-opener and an amazing session so far. 1.5 hours felt like 15 minutes. Some of the things that we have seen, more importantly, the demo session, and how when we talk about improving customer experience with artificial intelligence and machine learning, what we actually mean. We have shown, we've shown you that. So thank you, Dr. Ram. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Sentel. Thank you, Peace. Thank you, Benita, for supporting us, throughout this webinar. Also, thank you to all the attendees. We really wish you safe, and to please continue to stay safe. Very, very important. Let's continue to look at technology. Let's continue to consider the role of technology in improving and transforming life. So if you have more questions, please, chat it to our email addresses that we have provided, or you can also go to our Facebook pages as well. Please feel free to reach out to anyone on this panel if you have any further directions. We believe that we're going to bring you more of this engagement. Keep the question coming. Keep safe, and then thank you very much for your time. Cheers, everyone.